It's me, Duncan, and this is the video version of the Duncan Trussell Family Hour podcast. If you're not familiar with my podcast, The Midnight Gospel, the show on Netflix, was made using clips from my podcast, which has been an audio-only podcast for years. But I am a trendsetter, and I know 99.9% of podcasts are not video. They just keep putting audio podcasts out. And I want to push the boundaries of this medium and be one of the first, maybe the first podcaster to actually do video. So here it is. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm not used to it. It's weird to have a camera. It's weird to have my face on the screen over there, to see my bald over there on the monitor. I just want to look at it. I feel like my face looks shiny. Maybe I should have groomed my beard more. This is a great episode today with David Nichtern. You might know him as David from the Midnight Gospel. He is an author, a musician, and my meditation teacher. He also runs a wonderful organization called Dharma Moon. And if you have any inclination of going deeper into meditation or Buddhism, I would highly recommend checking them out. And they've got an upcoming course that we'll talk about later. But first, I have special permission from Amanda and the Seven Nuns. That's right, Amanda and the Seven Nuns. They are at the top of the charts right now, and they gave me permission to premiere their new video for their #1 song, Dead Mall. So here we go. It's Amanda and the Seven Nuns.
Dead mall, do you dream at all? Children's laughter filled your glowing halls. Your dark, dead mall halls forever dark. Dead mall halls forever dark. Dead mall halls forever dark. Dead mall, beneath your halls, scientists' spies, hypnotized by lazy eyes, shining messages of long-forgotten gods.
Now it's time for some shameless self-promotion. If you like this podcast and you want to listen to more episodes of it, you can find all of them at duncantrussell.com or wherever you stream podcasts. Also, April 3rd and 4th, I'm going to be at Wise Guys in Las Vegas. Then May 3rd and 4th at Cobb's Comedy Club in San Francisco. And then May 9th, 10th, and 11th, you can come see me at the Milwaukee Improv. And if you want commercial-free episodes of the DTFH, you can subscribe to my Patreon at patreon.com/. So here we go, everybody. I would highly recommend signing up for a teacher training course at Dharma Moon with David right now. Also, we have an upcoming info session. It's just like a live podcast where David and I talk, like what you're about to hear here. You could sign up for that. It's free right now. All right, let's jump into this podcast with David Nichtern.
It's that time again to dance and slap your ass. Take a magic hammer and smash your hourglass. Snort the sands of time, turn your mind into a flower. Then put your headphones on and listen down. Trussell Family Hour.
Good. David, it's great to see you.
You too, Duncan. It's been a minute.
It's been too long.
Okay.
So, here's something cool. I was at a wedding this last weekend and had a great conversation with someone who went to Naropa University, for 4 years. And he told me about this incredible something. I don't know if it's a class. You go into different colored rooms. They're just one uniform color. And the idea is you learn the difference between your neurosis and just the color. In other words, you walk into a room that's one single color. It's just a color. It's yellow. It's neutral, whatever, yellow. But, your mood, when you go into the room, your ideas about maybe the shape of the room, the other people in the room with you, whatever you're thinking in there shows you the overlay on top of just this basic color. And I thought that was so cool, to the point where after that conversation, wherever I was going, I would because I was in Myrtle Beach. And let me tell you, Myrtle Beach is everything you've heard that Myrtle Beach is. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Just like someone hated the beach and was like, let's just destroy a marsh. Let's just fuck this place up. So it's like putt-putt courses, water slides. And it's so easy to judge it so that you're not seeing anything other than like your own aversion to not wanting to be at a desiccated, profaned, formerly no doubt beautiful beach. And so, but then I'm looking at that and thinking, yeah, but that's one part of this thing. The other part is my kids. If they were there, they would have been like, this is heaven on earth. Roller coasters, water slides, putt-putt courses, all this stuff where I'm like, roller coasters, putt-putt courses, King Kong at the Ripley, Believe It or Not Museum, they would have seen it their overlay would have been very excited. But that's what I wanted to talk to you about. This sort of bifurcation that gets brought up in Buddhism between some neutral reality situation and what you bring to the table in your mind.
Yeah, so there, can you hear me okay, Duncan?
I hear you great.
There are 3 things I'm going to parse out from what you just said, if that's okay.
Great.
So the first, you mentioned the color rooms. Where were those?
That was at Naropa University.
Okay, and then you went to the Myrtle Beach?
Yeah, this was a wedding at Myrtle Beach.
And kind of the version of samsara or nirvana, according to who's perceiving it?
Yes.
Heaven or hell. And then the third thing is the formerly no doubt beautiful beach. So I thought I'll start there. I think we should start a formerly no doubt beauty contest. People who used to be beautiful, and you could sort of still tell. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That would be amazing.
And you'll be the host, and you'll have aging people on it who, with various degrees of attempts to preserve and elongate their sense of having been magnetizing and beautiful people.
Yeah.
So let's put that aside. That's like a future project. Okay.
Love it.
I would like to talk, but maybe after, about these rooms with the colors, because there's a lot more to that. It's called the 5 wisdom energies. It's a wonderful Buddhist topic about how wisdom and confusion manifest in different styles.
Okay.
And there are 5 basically of them. And it's not just colors, but it's also the shape of the room, the access to information, where the windows are. And it's putting you in a psychological space that's physically reinforced so that you can experience that quality of confusion, which is also flippable into that quality of wisdom. Cool. It's called 5 wisdom energies. Buddha families, sometimes that's called Buddha families too. So that's a great topic, and we can have fun with that. Now, whose beach is this anyhow, which is really what you're talking about, and what experience is being engendered by different people's projections onto the environment.
All right.
And that's a great topic because the whole world is trying to figure that out, is what is worth restoring, what is worth carrying forward, what is worth keeping, and what is worth destroying.
Yeah.
And I think we might have it backwards lately.
Yeah. How so?
Well, we're destroying some things that probably would be good to keep, like the natural beauty of the place and things like that, and our relationship to that. We're destroying our relationship to patience and discipline and cultivation of in a slower, steadier, more earthy, grounded way of wisdom and appreciation of life. And we seem to be cultivating a mad rush into a speedy, dopamine-based, triggering system that gets everybody hopped up and jumping around like frogs on a skillet, on a hot skillet.
Yeah, right.
That's what it looks like to me right now. Frogs on a hot skillet. They're kind of just jumping up and down.
Yes.
So those are 3 topics there. Yeah.
Okay. So I like talking about the dopamine world that we're living in, which is dopamine world. I would go to that amusement park. Dopamine world. Let's just cut to
You're in it. We're in it already.
Dopamine world. That's what this is. A hyperdimensional amusement park. You become human for a little bit. You extract dopamine, then you die, and you leave the park. So especially in terms of this concept of there being a sort of neutral reality and this capacity humans have to interpret that reality in varying ways. And that interpretation produces not just a release of dopamine, it produces cortisol if it's freaking you out. It produces serotonin, all the neurotransmitters, because that is the interpretive mechanism that we're using. It's something that uses a variety of neurotransmitters to interpret neutral phenomena in some way, and we are beginning to understand just how much control we have over that system. And so this is the interior.
Can I just interject one thought? Instead of control, I would say agency.
Agency. Okay, what's the difference?
Well, I think control has this damping down kind of quality to it, like you're shutting things down, whereas agency is you're sort of navigating and interacting with it in a skillful way.
Okay.
Maybe it's no difference,
let's say agency. It sounds nicer. Control's a little BDSM, I guess. Put a leash around the universe and make it like its feet, which I would do.
Aura frames, upload a new pic. Replace your ex-girlfriend, she's now sleeping with Ray. Beautiful Ray.
Looking for the perfect gift to celebrate the moms in your life? Aura frames are beautiful Wi-Fi connected digital picture frames that allow you to share and display unlimited photos. It's super easy to upload and share photos via the Aura app. And if you're giving an Aura as a gift, you can even personalize the frame with preloaded photos and memories. Let me just show you something here. My wife loves it when I put pictures of Sydney Sweeney on the Aura frame. She loves it so much that I keep doing it, and she's always happy to see Sydney Sweeney in the Aura frame along with our kids' pictures. She just loves Sydney Sweeney. Great actor, wonderful person, I imagine. Right now, Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. Listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $30 off plus free shipping on their best-selling frame. That's auraframes.com. Use code Duncan at checkout to save. Terms and conditions apply. If it was possible, that's probably why I'll never be a god. But so if you look at it as an interiorization, a sort of migration into the interior, into the self, versus an exterior migration, which already happened. We did an exterior migration. We colonized the whole planet, and we built our hive around the whole planet. Now there's not much to do as far as that goes, other than tear shit down and rebuild it, or make it taller, wider, put in cooler stuff inside the buildings we've made. But it's like we're beginning to realize, it's so much more energy efficient to find a way to transform the brain chemistry so that regardless of the exterior, the interior feels pleasant, or whatever way we might want it to feel. That's what all of this stuff is about. It's like, it's the famous quote that Klaus whatever his name is, the guy who runs the World Economic Forum said. You will own nothing and be happy. And I feel like he was trying to articulate a transhumanist notion that ownership is meaningless, but the feeling of ownership is incredible. That's what you're going for. Do you really want a mansion, or do you want the feeling of having a mansion? Do you want $1 million in the bank account, or the feeling of having $1 million in the bank account? So sort of this realization of every single thing around us, whether it's your phone, video games, sex toys, drugs, or wealth, is a device, a clunky device to get your brain to squirt out happy juice. And what if we can just get the happy juice to squirt minus a mortgage?
I think if people came in right there squirting the happy juice, they might think they were watching a different program. But in any case, I think the word that might ground this whole is contentment.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what you're really talking about. When and how and what is the value of contentment, and distinguishing contentment from acquiescence. It's not the same. It's not the same. It's just, okay, I'll settle for this,
Right. Yes.
Genuinely content.
And acquiescence is
content.
I think we could argue that there are many people who consider themselves spiritual, and they have a spiritual practice, but what they've actually learned how to do is acquiesce. They've confused their acquiescence with contentment. By they, I mean me. I don't know how many times in some bitter way I'm like, okay, this is it. Yeah. But it's bullshit. Like you still don't want to be there. You want more.
Well, and you could add to acquiesce, subdue or control or attempt to control.
Yes.
That's why the notion of contentment is, you could add to that appreciating things the way that they are.
Yeah.
You could add the idea of less struggle to achieve something in a particular way that may not be the way it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You can include being fluid with situations as they evolve. So it's almost like two modes that you're talking about there, and one is fraught with tension and stress and anxiety, and the other is transcendent via the ordinary route of being where you are and who you are, without as much struggle and tension. So that might be an interesting paradigm. And then you could live in a mansion too, and you could live in a tiny home.
Yeah, I mean, I have a wonderful house, and when I was living in a roach infested apartment in Echo Park, if I thought one day I'd be living in the house I'm living in, I'd be like, dear God, that's insane. But I must say, though I do love my house, and I'm happy not just to be in it, but that my family gets to be in it, same level of stress. Nothing's different from the roach infested apartment in the house. It's in fact almost identical. And you having a cool, nice house and saying that, you sound like the biggest asshole on earth, because you would hear people say that when you aren't living in a place like that. And you think, yeah, well, let me find out for myself if it's true, But now it's like, oh, right, I get it. The stage dressing is having very little impact on my mood state. If anything, it's amplifying the stress because I got to pay the mortgage and there's more responsibility involved in it. But to go back to the earlier point, the reason I think Buddhism is a fundamentally revolutionary system in the most intense way, more revolutionary than communism, more revolutionary than anything I've encountered, is because it goes upstream to the fountainhead of suffering, and downstream is where the sorcerers live, the marketers live, the people who say, if you arrange phenomena in this specific way, that on the other side of that, my friend, is true happiness. It is it is advanced snake oil salespeople. It's no different than the person riding into town with like, Uncle William's tincture of life. It'll cure your flux. It's no different. It's no different. It's all snake oil disguised as robots, AI, synthesizers, you name it. Like once you get this thing, you're great. And so to me, and Buddhism, in its purest form, the way you're articulating it, it subverts the economy. Our entire economy depends on the belief that should you obtain this or that, you will be happier, and thus you should work really hard and and have a job and bust your ass to achieve this or that, because there is happiness on the other side. So it's the carrot is bullshit, and running after the carrot is bullshit, and Buddhism is getting right to the root of that. And theoretically, if everyone just adopted what you're talking about and found a way to find contentment in the midst of the confusion, the madness, then the entire world economy would collapse. I don't know what would happen after that. Everything would be fucked. Nobody would, you know what I mean? Like, truly, though, truly. That's where, to me, there's some...
Well, wait, but Duncan, so contentment also wouldn't mean nihilism.
No, I don't think
it
so.
It would not lend itself towards nihilistic, or the sense that, hey, it's all empty anyhow, the big house, the small house, they're all empty. No, it has to do with going where the salmon spawn. Go upstream. You said go upstream find the mind where the thoughts spawn, where those projections are spawned, where the habits that we have formed spawn regularly, respawn, and touch into that space. You're able to kind of contour something that does not have the compulsive quality of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
A good Buddhist should be less compulsive. That would be a good attribute of seeing somebody who's practiced. There's more, what we call Xinjiang, or kind of stabilized awareness that is less compulsive. And Xinjiang means sort of processed in a certain way, or tamed.
Yeah.
I love that word. And you can see it when people practice. That should be a sign that shows up as they have a little bit more equanimity and stability. No matter what their perspective is, there should be some grounded quality that is manifesting. Do you agree?
Absolutely. And I think that this isn't a intellectual exercise. It's not that you are like sitting next to your 8-month-old daughter on an airplane who is screaming like she knows the plane is about to crash and is like unconsolable. And you intellectually think, well, here we have the phenomena of a screaming baby and my own like desire for her to feel happy, and my own desire for people around her to not experience what I've experienced and we all hate, which is the screaming baby on the plane, and to comfort my wife, who it's her daughter, and that I have a theory that is even more intense for a mom than a dad. So she's getting freaked out, and therefore this is just a projection, and now I have peace. No, it's somehow identifying the simultaneous reality that this is fine, not in a passive bullshit way, because you're not disregarding the crying baby. You're not just like, you know what, I'm going to take a nap now. You know what, I'm just going to sit here and smile like a buffoon. It's not that at all. It's that you have somehow rooted yourself in something that isn't being rippled by the baby screaming. That to me is the practice of Buddhism would allow you to grow roots into that rootless space. So it's not bullshit.
A couple of quick thoughts on that. One, the 8-month-old baby probably does not know she's on a plane. You said she thinks that she's freaking out because the plane is going to crash. I don't think so.
What is this fucking bullshit?
It's closer to that, or I'm hungry, or I just made a poop, or whatever. Yeah. And one of my friends once said, when I had a baby, was like, check first if they're hungry or tired. Yeah.
So
life is simpler than we might make it,
Right.
and you can help people in simpler ways
Right.
than. So I was wondering if you saw this article, which I just happened to synchronously see this morning, about a comedian, one of your brothers in arms,
Who?
in Australia. I didn't catch the name.
Hold on.
But he's in Australia.
I'll
And
open it
he's at a club, a concert with 700 people, and there's a mom with a baby sitting in the fourth row, and the baby is crying. The baby
Okay.
is, and he asked them to leave because, and it caused a furor in Australia because they try to accommodate mothers and babies. You didn't hear about this yet, I take it.
No, the baby was heckling.
Yeah, exactly.
This episode of the DTFH has been supported by Squarespace. Squarespace is the ultimate site if you're interested in building a website. If you have any need to imprint yourself on the World Wide Web, which we all know is an emerging super consciousness, then you should use Squarespace. Otherwise, you might anger the super consciousness, and God knows what could happen. If you want proof of Squarespace's spectacular power, go no further than DuncanTrussell.com, my website, which was made using Squarespace and has won 7 consecutive Golden Apple Website of the Year awards from the National Website Award Society. Squarespace is incredible, and you can now do email campaigns with Squarespace. Come on, do you want people who get an email from you to think that they're about to have their identity stolen? No. Make your email content beautiful. Make it powerful. Use Squarespace. Even better, Squarespace has members-only areas. If you want to set up a paywall for your fans, you can use it for anything. Promote your online business, announce an upcoming event, whatever you need, Squarespace has it. Again, go to DuncanTrussell.com. You will shudder with joy because it is that beautiful. Everybody uses Squarespace, and you should too. Head to squarespace.com/Duncan for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use offer code Duncan to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Again, it's squarespace.com/Duncan for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use offer code Duncan for 10% off your first order of a website or.
And more complicatedly, the mother was trying to breastfeed the baby to calm it down. So they took it as a kind of affront to that whole aspect of the world in which children are included as part of reality. So, it is, what would you have done?
Probably like
You're at one of your shows.
Look, what he should have done is bought the baby a vodka soda.
Well, it was getting the vodka soda from the mom.
Look, so in that moment, there's a few things that are going to be going through my mind. One, who the fuck brings a baby to a comedy show? Are you nuts? That's nuts. That's not going to work. It's not music. It's just some weirdo on stage yapping. So that's going to cross my mind, number one. The second thing that's going to cross my mind is if I eject a breastfeeding mother from my show, I'm dead. I'm just like, there is it. I am. So the baby and the mother have created a perfect situation for comedy because I'm now all you have.
And for Dharma.
Yeah, you just need to say, obviously this is the worst kind. I thought I'd experienced the worst heckler on earth, but can't be a worse heckler than a crying baby. What are you going to do? Be like, get the fuck out of here. Oh, really? I guess you want attention, huh? It's a show, baby. You can't do anything. You are completely. So if you eject, anytime you kick a heckler out of a show, that's a high. That's like the nuclear option. And you only do that. You only do that if it's like truly like an aggressive, shitty person who's ruining the show for everybody. But a baby, so you're doomed. So yes, he made a terrible mistake because basically at that point the show is going to have to just go off the rails, and you have to, even maybe bring the mother on stage, let her sit behind you while you try to do jokes. You just have to work with the baby. That's all.
How about a whole comedy show that's only for mothers and babies?
Yeah, that would be amazing. Or only for babies. Just get a bunch of strollers there and just see how you do in front of a room full of babies. So yeah, that is it's rough on the comic because he's got to be thinking like, why would you do this? And that's the part where
and he was trying to protect the investment of the other ticket holders, So but the point is that life actually is this complex. And as we try to lay a dharma on top of it or a perspective on top of it, you have to get some point into the granularity of, you could call it what would Buddha do or something like that. And somebody's kicking your chair in the movie theater and you have all 49 Lojong slogans ready to go. You have you're armed and dangerous with the dharmas that you've studied and are trying to practice. And reality just has this kind of like, pokey quality to it. Pokes right into where you think you're at, right?
But to me, the whole armed and dangerous with the Lojong slogans, which are like sort of mnemonic devices for the Dharma, or armed and dangerous with any kind of spiritual information. That means you're coming from your head. And none of that shit's ever worked for me. I don't know how many times I've remembered some Lojong slogan right before I blew up in a rage. Like it's the last thing you think before you're like, what the fuck? So those things feel useless to me in regards to the moment the moment you're talking about, which is, look, riding through Myrtle Beach, I might be able to like have some like semi moment of identifying with like, there's something beautiful about the rundown nature of this place. There's something beautiful in its dilapidated quality. There's something real that I can connect to here that makes me less pointlessly neurotic about just a ride through a beach town. But when it comes to the kicking of the seat, the screaming baby, you wake up in the hospital and you don't have an arm, or all the things that are forced.
Oh, it's quite,
you know what I mean?
Quite a leap, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you could still leap. You just can't clap. But in those moments, it feels like the only time any of this stuff seems to work is if I have been meditating, or if I have actually been, downshifting or whatever you want to call it, so that I have a familiarity with that, with that state, that unconditioned state. Then it's more of a spontaneous reaction in the moment that is good. Not like, okay, what's the 17th Lojong slogan, or let me remember the paramita of patience now. And all that stuff seems to me like a secondary thing to work on when you're, not dealing with stuff like that.
And, we say, you know this, but when we're in our training programs and, training teachers, the word for meditation that we more often use is gom in Tibetan, G-O-M.
Yeah.
And the meaning is to become familiar with something, to familiarize yourself with something. So that's a different way of talking about meditation than it's trying to manage or
Right.
Manipulate something.
Right.
You're becoming familiar, in a sense, if you do spend 20 or 30 minutes a day just settling into a kind of attentive state. That's a non-reactive state. That's the essence of the meditative state. It's non-reactive. You're not honing your reactions. You're just kind of noticing them. And when you do spend that amount of time, you become more familiar with what that even might feel like, to not rush into action, to not, judge harshly, to not jump into, follow the footprints of passion and aggression all the way down the rabbit hole, which is how we spend most of the day.
Yeah.
So you're becoming familiar, you're gone with a more grounded state. And then that will, in my humble opinion, when people say, how long do I need to do this before it works? I would say like 20 or 30 years would be a good start,
Yeah.
some kind of practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
But everybody wants the zippity doo-dah. I see that, and that's part of that Myrtle Beach scenario, is they want it fast and they want it hard. But as we know, that's not always the best sex, is it?
I wouldn't know. It's the only sex I have, David. For 30 years, I've been practicing the whole thing. You know, what's funny about meditation and another sort of, maybe the word's too strong, but the reason it does seem to be a revolutionary activity is in a world, in dopamine world, where the idea is how quickly can I milk dopamine out of the udders of my brain? Like, I need it fast. I need fast release Adderall. I need a powerful drug that gets me high right away. I don't want to wait 45 minutes. I want to get high now. So a few things for me that I've noticed when I'm sitting is all that momentum of wanting to milk the cow. It's still happening inside. I might not be moving, but there's this like part of me that's like, okay, where are the udders here? What do I do?
Right.
And then the sort of letting that do its thing, you know, at least I've noticed there's a sort of, you have to give up controlling the situation completely, which is really revolutionary. And that's all we're taught is control the situation, make it work for you. And so and then you start trusting it, you know, that it's its own. It's not like when you take Advil, you have to think anything after you swallow. It's not like you're like, okay, now bloodstream, let's get this medicine to my head because I'm hungover. It just will happen in its own time. That, to me, is the revolutionary teaching of the thing. It's like, watch this. Look what happens if you just don't try to push it. And then that's the familiarity I think they're talking about.
Or avoid it.
Not
push, don't push, and don't avoid is a very unusual, because if you don't push it but you avoid it, or repress it, that's what most people think meditation is, to be honest with you. They think it's don't push it but you can avoid it, and you can put something between you and it. But if you also don't avoid it and you don't push it, which is the middle way kind of approach, where are you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you mean, like a time-space location? Where are you?
Where's your access point to interacting with the situation if you're not pushing or avoiding? Like, let's say, take a domestic situation with your child or your spouse or something like that. If you're not pushing or avoiding, you're communicating.
Yeah. Right.
Really? I mean, I just thought that spontaneously. So communication is this beautiful, intricate weave of not pushing and not avoiding, makes a very different type of communication also, no?
Yeah. I mean, that's spontaneous. The thing is this, no matter what you're doing, whether you're ordering or you're getting food, buying food at the grocery store, whether you're at a conversation on a date, whether you're with coworkers talking, it's all spontaneous in the sense that you're not diving into the subconscious mind to summon up instantaneously a series of words that you're linking together into a sentence that applies to the situation, added on top of whatever your agenda may be and some unacknowledged like other shit going on. It's all happening spontaneously, habitually. And so anytime that I have been practicing for an extended period of time, you start realizing, oh, it's like all of these things I've been doing are not bad. They're just somewhere down the line I figured out, well, this is the way to do this thing. This is the way to do that thing. And this is how you do that. And this is how you do that. And now I just do them as though that is the way things are done spontaneously. And that is how you end up with dishes in the sink and clothes all over the floor and, you know what I mean, food sitting out and, you know, people pissed off at you and because you're not emailing them back or whatever. It's all of it is just like at some point I decided this is how you do things in Duncan land. And then when you start settling into this non-ignorant but not like wrestling state, those things that you've been doing spontaneously, another thing starts emerging that to me feels a little less spontaneous at first. Especially when it's centered on this intention to help, this intention.
Okay. So you just said a great thing. Not ignorant and not aggressive. So of the three roots, the three roots of the samsaric world that you're talking about, where everything's confused and, it's like a speed contest. The three roots are passion, aggression, and ignorance. So you're saying if you stop avoiding, let's call it that, and you stop pushing your case all the time, which is aggression, the third one that's left is kind of an interesting one, which is passion.
Yeah.
And that each one of them transforms into an enlightened energy. I'm just telling you the way I learned it. The ignorance transforms into a spacious, open, non-compulsive space. The aggression transforms into a sharpness and clarity of mind. So the passion transforms into, you could say, skillful and heart-warming communication with everybody and everything, every situation. So where the passion is an interesting one, though, because without that, you don't even get started, right? If you didn't have some passion for the Dharma or for, a particular type of training that you're undergoing, you wouldn't do it. So passion is a very important one. Well, and it's also, you wouldn't be with a companion and working out your shit. Passion is a really deep one. Yeah.
Is transform the right word? Isn't really, if when you're experiencing these like sort of negative qualities, it's really more that your awareness has been fixated on one side of a quality where that other side, it's already there, or the quality wouldn't be there anyway. So that, you know what I mean? So it's not really, you're not transforming anything. You're just sort of going up the musical scale, so to speak. You're like getting out of like one set of keys that you've been playing over and over, and you're realizing, shit, this keyboard is much bigger than I expected and more in tune over here. So it's always been there. And to me, that's...
Not only that, it's always been there. You just said, it's permanent, they say. This is a word that you don't get to use in Buddhism until you get into sort of certain level of perspective. You say it's all the other things you're talking about, the neurosis, the aggression, the wanting it your way, they're all impermanent. Yeah. Like every rage that you've experienced that has been part of your ecosystem was impermanent, without a doubt.
Thank God.
You call me the next day, you go like, you feel, I don't feel that way anymore. But while it's happening, we don't recognize the impermanence. The other qualities that you're talking about, such as, compassion, clarity of mind, and a kind of spacious thing, are said to be indestructible aspects of your true nature.
Wow, that's
it's called Vajra nature. What part of you is not destructible, is not impermanent, is not coming and going. And they say the awareness itself is actually, try to find the source of awareness. See if you can do that. It's not your brain.
Right.
That's a big mistake to think that's what it is. Your brain's like an organ, like your liver. It's an organ for thought processing.
Right. Yeah, I don't buy into that material.
You need a liver as much as you need a brain.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely... How did you know I needed a liver? Actually... I'll bring that.
Well, wait a minute. Okay, we should talk about that if that's true. I mean, but...
No, I don't need a liver.
Yeah, I mean in other words...
Nice.
Okay, good. Yeah, well, wait a couple of decades. So in other words, what can we reside in? What can we, in the religious and the theistic traditions, they say place your trust or your faith in God. There's an old gospel song, hold to things eternal, hold to God's unchanging hand. I'm going to guess they mean maybe something similar, that there's something that's primordial, that is fundamental, that is beyond our, attempt to avoid or activate something that we can rest in. And I would say good meditation practice, you should have some awareness of the fact that you can rest in a primordial state when you meditate. That's, if depending on the student, I might just say rest in primordial awareness. That's the whole instruction.
Yeah.
But we can't because we're we're at that Myrtle Beach supermarket, amusement park in our mind and speed it up. So you have to give it a handle, and that's the breath or something like that. Mindfulness practice.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be the breath. It could be, that's at least in this book I was listening to. It's sort of like you could do breath. You could do, one of the craziest ones was thought itself. He was saying, put your awareness on your thinking. And then what he was saying, which definitely happens when you decide to do that, is it's like your thoughts are like, fuck that, I'm gone. Your thoughts just disappear. The moment you're like, okay, now I will let the thoughts be the breath, which is really funny. But then again, this isn't, that's the other misconception. You think this is about, the removing your thoughts or whatever the human thing is. And it's to me, it's just like you start seeing how somehow in the midst of the baby screaming, it's still there. Like the awareness field is still there. And the awareness field is the one thing that doesn't give a shit about the baby crying, not in a dark way, but it's not like furrowing its brow. Its shoulders aren't getting tight. It's just the space within which this is happening. And that, whatever that is, to me, must be, as far as converting it to some theistic language, that would be what Jesus called the kingdom of heaven or the Holy Spirit. And what's really interesting, if you look in the book of John, the original Greek, in the beginning was the Word. Now you hear that, like, what does that even fucking mean? But it's logos is what that means. It means the Dharma. So it does connect to what you're saying, some kind of primordial, non-distorted reality. In the beginning was the Dharma. And then the Dharma...
And logos also could mean mantra. Primordial sound. See, because primordial sound emanates from primordial mind. It's like the next step up. And these things are tap into, a kind of deeper aspect of our experience.
Well, take it one step deeper than sound. Let's go, who was it? I don't know, Euclid maybe? I don't know, some famous ancient mathematician. It wasn't Euclid. It doesn't matter. He was saying that actually the closest we can get to God or to like beauty, I think is how he put it, is math. Because sound is your ears doing math. So it's your ears converting just the change in what air pressure into, like, mathematically converting that into what we call sound. So again, in the beginning, there's this, and even math, you could say, it's human symbols pointing towards this inarguable situation. So in the beginning was the truth, Dharma. And then the next part of that formula, as it works out, is the truth became a person. That's Jesus. But when we talk about, Buddha, it means the awakened one. So in other words, there is a capacity in humans to become that truth via whatever you want to call it, enlightenment, whatever. Now,
well, it's called Dharmakaya. That's what it's actually called in the Buddhist tradition. The body of that. It's the domain of that kind of space of truth, and things and suchness, things as they are, without the bias and the projections, and the ego clinging. And it could be very idealistic, but it's also could be something that you could access too.
Yeah, I mean, sure. So what I love is that the toolbox we've been given from this perspective, and maybe this is where it diverges a little bit from Christianity. I haven't thought this one through all the way, but whereas in Christianity you have this sin state, unaligned state, that if you don't stop sinning, you will go to hell. The sin is to be rejected. Get thee behind me, Satan. Whereas in this case, it's saying, actually, these qualities that are causing you so much suffering, if you begin to follow them, they're leading to a state of like bliss. That it's not it's not about amputating these things, but actually keep following that deeper and deeper and deeper. See where it goes. This is why anytime I've met a true junkie, there is something in them that has a saintly quality, because they are so invested in helping themselves, in serving themselves, and altering their consciousness into a divine state, that if they just shifted that to other people instead of themselves, if they had the same passion for blasting heroin in their arm, if they could convert that passion to how do I help people in the world, they'd be Gandhis, they would be Mother Teresas, they would be, tireless, tenacious, like outside of like legal systems. They would they'd literally destroy themselves for joy. But for their own joy, that's the problem. If they were just like, yeah, I'll die for you if it means that I can help you in some way. That's to me what's really interesting, and I think underlines the point we're making.
This episode of the DTFH has been supported by BetterHelp. I know I might seem like an incredibly stable person. A lot of people say I'm the most sane person they ever met. You might be surprised to find out that I go to therapy. It has helped me so much. Meditation is great, but sometimes you need a mind gardener to get down there and help you pluck out those weeds planted deep in your subconscious mind. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Find your social sweet spot with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Duncan today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Duncan. Thank you, BetterHelp.
It's true. Maybe it's worth calling that transformation, if it's that radical. And how it appears is so radically different than how it appeared. So what I was going to ask you is, at what point does this kind of primordial awareness, which doesn't really, as you said, doesn't really bias towards the baby being happy or not happy, or you being happy or me not being happy, at what point does that turn into, does it have a tinge, the slightest like red drop on a vast array of white snow of compassion and bias towards goodness? Does it have that, or does it not have that? Is it just pure cold space, vast and indifferent, or does it have a little bit of a bias towards goodness and compassion? What do you think?
I don't think it has a bias. I think that but I do think that if you're in, so look at the opposite of that state. Like if you're completely fixated on how you want things to be right then and yourself, and then applying all the, distortions that at least I apply in situations like that, such as the baby will cry forever. Maybe the plane won't land. Maybe this plane is just going to keep flying and the baby will scream forever. Insanity. And so all of those thoughts, oh my God, I'm not helping enough. I should know how to make the baby stop crying. Or what are we doing? Why do we even take this baby on a trip like this? We're tormenting the baby, or all those things. Those are going to lead me to saying some bullshit, or you know what I mean? I'm going to get angry. Now I'm stressed. When I'm stressed, simplification. When you're stressed, you act a certain way. When you are compressed into yourself, you act a certain way. And that way for me is always like sloppy.
And are you simultaneously cut off from the basic nature of awareness and your own compassion?
Well, I don't.
Don't you lose both threads at the same time in a way?
What's weird is
in a strange way, you're not devoid of awareness. It's like the awareness has been turned into a laser or something. It's like the awareness is now just so hyper compressed into this one like fantasy or something. It's still there. It's very powerful. And whenever you get into that state, realize like, whoa, this is like, imagine if you could rest this into your breath the way you're resting it into like how fucking pissed you are. Like it's because that's what we've been practicing. We're good at that. Like it's natural. So
it's more like a laser and less like the sun radiating.
Yeah, it's the difference between a particle and a wave. One of them it's converted into just some zapping laser of neurosis, and the other one, because it's just it's a wave. It's in that place. I mean, this is such an idiot's way of describing it, but just think of the last time you took good MDMA. You know, try to be in a bad mood. Try when you're in that state of like just flooded with dopamine. Try to get mad at somebody in that state. All you're doing is like, I just want you to know I really love you. You mean the world to me. And the problem is you come down. But it shows how like in that place, it's easier to be a wave than a particle. And naturally things roll out of your mouth, or naturally you look back at things you wish you didn't do. And you're like, you know, I was doing my best. I love that. There was love there. And then, so to me, that's the biochemical way of describing what we're talking about. So no, I do not think the awareness field itself is compassionate, benevolent, has some like personality to it necessarily. But I think that something about letting go into that space engenders all of the qualities that we hear about in Buddhism.
And you're also saying that quote unquote sin is just an obscuration from that space.
Yeah.
It's not a thing in itself, but it's interesting, the idea of being, you know, like Adam and Eve being thrown out of the garden. It's like you have been cut off. In a way, neurosis is a kind of cut off state in which that laser focus is keeping you constricted and tight. And if you open and you relax, the flow of the qualities that we're talking about is quite natural, actually. I think that I would say in my experience that's true. When you find that baby laughing or somebody looking at that, or you just look at water, like I have the East River right outside my window, I just watch the water and the waves, you quite naturally open up to a kind of non-neurotic and non-sinful. You don't want to hurt somebody.
Yeah.
And the world is constricted right now. It's very tight to me. I just watch people snapping like snapping turtles. You know, I'm worried about it, Duncan.
You know, this is the problem with the way we do democracy in America. Is it's like the presidential elections are coming up, so you have just a shotgun blast of propaganda going into your face anytime you go on the internet, anywhere, any social media, anything. And all of that completely involves putting people into that constricted state. They want you afraid of this guy or that guy. They want you to think the survival of the country and the planet your vote is going to determine whether or not there's a nuclear war or no more America. And if you look back at every political season, it's always like that. It's always, we are on the brink. And if you don't, then we're going over the edge, baby. And then once somebody gets elected, what's the first thing they say? Now is the time to heal. So it's like the very same people who've been paying billions of dollars to just psychically just devastate the population into voting for them, they get in front of the podium and they're like, now we must come together as a country. And it's bullshit. It's like, you know, I think, who was the comedian talking about? This is really awful. Something that pimps do when they beat up a prostitute. No, it wasn't a comedian. It was some documentary on prostitution. Pimp beats up the prostitute, then gives them a bath. like rubs their shoulders. It's like, I love you so much. And that's how you like induce the effect where you fall in love with your kidnapper. It's like the kidnapper gives you some kindness after like mauling you, and somehow your brain is just like, okay, I guess I love you. That's what the president does. That's exactly what. So we are in the mauling period right now where both sides are just trying to terrify the shit out of us. And of course people are buying into that because they don't realize this is the pattern every time there's an election. Every time it's the end of the world. Every time it's horror. And then that horror dissipates for 4 years, and then it starts again. And look what this one has done. Look at these last 4 years. They brought us to the brink. I will save us. So that's, I think, why people are tight right now.
It just reminded me of a story with my teacher, Trungpa Rinpoche, and we were sitting around at an anniversary party of one of the facilities, and he went around the room. He did two things, actually. One was he taught us about how to do divination, which was kind of interesting, which I'll talk to you about another time.
Cool.
But the other was then he said, okay, and this is all the, sort of leaders of the various communities. He said, what would you do if tomorrow you were made president or king or whatever? You're now in charge. You're actually in charge. What would be your course of action? And he went around the room, everybody kind of everybody spieled their spiel, and presented their options. And then at the end we went, well, Rinpoche, what would you do? And I remember this very vividly. He said, the first thing I would do is tell everybody, just keep doing what you're doing.
Perfect. Perfect.
I mean, can you imagine?
Yeah. I mean,
it doesn't mean keep fucking things up and keep abusing people. It doesn't mean that. It means there's, this notion of everything has to be cut, like what you're saying, the panic-driven cutoff. There's too much feed into our panic mind, and not enough into the continuity of goodness.
100%
of possibility.
It's horrible. It's wagging the dog, man. It's like, imagine if you and your siblings had to vote for your next father, and there were two fathers running to be your stepfather, and they got to do propaganda campaigns. They got to talk shit about each other. They got to like just dig stuff up in the past of each father. What kind of house would you be living in? What would that house be like for the 6 months leading up to the choosing that father? And then after you get the father, since the other one has defamed them so much, half the siblings don't trust him anyway. And are like, man, we need a new father. That other father would have been better. Now this father sucks. And so you have all of these politicians who are so audacious and so puffed up in their proclamation of loving the country, when their entire mechanism of maintaining power is to malign anyone who doesn't agree with them. And it's horrific. And it's like the effect it has on people is brutal, because people buy into this shit. These people are so hypnotic, and they're so good at convincing you that the world is ending. It's a cult. I mean, the only way, what is the difference between the way these people are running their campaigns and any garden variety suicide cult leader who's like, the world will end soon. We must, or if you don't let me hump your wife, the sun will vanish from the sky. What is the difference? It might be a little less like performative, but it's still from the top to the bottom. The whole mechanism sucks. It's just awful. I mean, it's
what question I would ask the stepfather who is vying for the job?
Yeah.
I think I would ask, are you going to be kind to my mother?
Of course. I'm going to be more kind than the other asshole, let me tell you. And he will tell you he's going to be kind to your mother, but he's a piece of shit. Have you seen his criminal record? I dug it up. He went to jail.
Oh, Jesus, man. Bend.
And if I became president, the first thing I would do, my friend?
No, not yet.
letter of resignation.
No, you wouldn't. Come on, Duncan. People can't do that.
I'm not gonna get sucked into that bullshit. Are you kidding? I would rather.
you.
No, my friend. I would rather be Donald Duck at Disney World. If you're gonna make me a mascot, I want to be one in an actual amusement park, not an amusement park where people don't realize they're at Disney World. I will wear a president costume at a fair, but I'm not gonna like take the LARP as president. No way.
Well, it's a bit nihilistic, but I feel you on it.
It's not a great. I mean, there's no time. What am I going to do? I can't have synthesizers in the Oval Office
What are you running for?
right now.
Yeah.
That's funny. I don't know. I'm running for anything. I mean, I don't know if I'd call it running because it's not a democracy. I'm just trying to. I enjoy making things, and I don't want to be an asshole. So it's sort of. I don't know if that's too just basic and dumb, but whatever that would be. If that's an office, then please vote for me. I mean, maybe not. I'm pretty good at being an asshole. David, this brings us to, I mean, I love chatting with you. The reason I'm even able to have this conversation is because of you and all the stuff you've introduced me to. I don't think I would have stumbled upon any of the stuff we're talking about. And I don't think I would have been as magnetized into Buddhism as I am now, if not for meeting you. If I'd met somebody, it would have been easy for me to meet somebody who articulated this stuff in a way that made me think this is boring and pointless and absolutely a waste of time. So you're so good at, I think, individually sort of identifying what people are like. You're very good at speaking our language individually. I don't think you could do this in some broad way. I think that it's very difficult. I think that's the problem with books, is they're great, but it's not individualized. And the whole lineage of Buddhism seems to be one where a teacher understands the psychology of the student and then knows how to sort of speak to that psychology, to sort of lure maybe at first, identifying the aggression and the neurosis and not rejecting it, but say, oh, okay, that's I know what that is here, and giving things to it that it eats and it doesn't know it's medicine.
Well, on that note, we are trying to train teachers who can do that. Both present the broad strokes and finesse the situation of communicating, the value, the essence of these practices to people without any, attempt to create a monolith of any kind necessarily, or, it's something that is in the wind right now, and people want to learn these things. So there's something natural happening. But we are trying to train at Dharma Moon, we're trying to train teachers. That's a very important part, and that's why I was talking to you earlier about the intergenerational lineage aspect of how these things are transmitted. They are like, I'm old, I'm getting older every minute, and I'm going well, what is going to happen the next round? People like you are going to take over, and Ethan and all the students. And I was taken such good care of by my teachers. It's just extraordinary that way. Handed, can you imagine if you felt like somebody had handed you a basket of gold, and then you go, it's heavy. There's that quality to it, but there's also a lustrous and rich quality to it. You want to pass it along. So for whatever it's worth, that's what we're trying to do with the Dharma Moon program that you have so much helped out with. So many people have come to these teacher training programs because of the connection with you, Duncan.
That's cool.
It's an interesting sidebar of your attempt not to. What did you say? Not to be an asshole.
Yeah, running to not be an asshole.
Yeah, you might have succeeded more than you know.
Well, that's good news. I just think it's like sending people to. It's like sending someone a great music or something. It's such a. It's just a good way to learn about something that, just depending on which book you stumble upon or what person you're talking to. It can seem very confusing and easy to articulate it in the wrong way completely. It's easy to think, God knows I've done this, where you really think you figured it out. And then you start like talking about it to someone, and later down the line, you realize like, I literally told them the opposite of what that means. Like the polar opposite. Like, what have I done? What have I, it's like telling someone how to swim. It's like, just go down, just keep swimming down. And that's swimming. Just flail in the water. So that's the other thing about it, is that it's nice to have somebody sort of bring you into the deep waters of it. And also, as you say, we do this in real time, meaning like everyone does it at their own pace. You don't want to start taking trigonometry before you know how to do basic math.
Yeah.
You know, I like that about it. It's systematic, and I think that's part of the lineage that it's a systematic approach.
It is. And it's essentially, ultimately, an oral transmission lineage, or they call it ear whispered.
Yeah.
Sometimes, there is a passing along of some essence of experience that is very hard to, calibrate as purely an intellectual set of ideas that's being transmitted along. There's something deeper going through. And, I feel a responsibility personally, because I kind of, through no real virtue of my own, got very seriously exposed to what I call the old blues masters, the 20th century Tibetan, the last group of teachers that were raised in that system in Tibet. Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, Galo Rinpoche, Trungpa Rinpoche, Karmapa. These were like incredible transmission beings. And, you could remember what they said and things like that, but there's a feeling that got passed along that I'm absolutely, intent on sharing as much as I can possibly.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, to put it back into stoner terminology, it's a contact high. I mean, it kind of is. No, I don't know if you've had this experience. If I get around people who are on acid, I can start feeling like I'm tripping. And like, it's not like breathing in smoke. What's going on there? And their consciousness is so altered, and we tend to harmonize with each other, that my consciousness is harmonizing with their consciousness. And that harmonization is feeling like, whoa, I am tripping. And so I have a feeling it's sort of similar to that. When I'm around comedians, it's the same thing. When you're around comedians. When you're around negative people, you have to watch out, or you'll start getting negative. Nihilists, you'll become a nihilist.
It's like Zelig, that movie Zelig.
Never saw it.
It's Woody Allen, and it's like he just can absorb everything around him. So the other part of it is that the next generation has to do it their own way at the same time. And that's really, frame it in their own terms, make it relevant to the current reality. So that's a tricky dance, to absorb the ancestral wisdom, and then to really, really flesh it out in the time and place you're in. So I think a lot of people...
We're going to digitally clone you. We're just going to clone you. Like, that's it. We don't have to worry about this problem. You're going to be an infinite being whether you like it or not. We got you.
Well, on that note...
I do. Thank you, David. Thank you so much. This is a fun chat.
And thank you for hosting us, and for, we have another teacher training coming along in the summer, and there'll be a link there if you want to join this, whatever you're perceiving this algorithm to be, I have a link for you and I do welcome you to join in, because there's more, and it is somewhat methodical, and we do go through it with people. So thank you, Duncan, and
thank you.
Let me know if you need anything, okay?
Yeah, likewise. Thank you, David.
Okay. All right.
Second.
Thank you so much, everybody. If you enjoyed this, won't you click like and subscribe? Help me seduce the YouTube algorithm, because I honestly have no idea what I'm doing. And much thanks to our wonderful sponsors, BetterHelp, Aura Frames, and Squarespace. The links and offer codes are all going to be in the description of this video. Don't forget to sign up for the info session I'm doing with
Don't forget to sign up for the info session I'm doing with David, or just sign up for the teacher training program. You won't regret it. I will see you next week. Until then, Hare Krishna.